then we also lost Sheldon Adelson. And Jonathan, you had a relationship with him.
Well, I wouldn't say that necessarily. I was fortunate enough to meet him a dozen times or so, and got to talk with him a few times and hear some of his insights and stories. And but before I tell you that, I thought 2021 was going to get better, and now we're starting with the death of two Las Vegas legends. I mean, when not to mention everything else going on in the world. Anyway, yeah, I was fortunate enough to meet him, and I think, the thing he'll be, at least from my perspective, the thing he'll be most remembered for and should be is his contribution to Las Vegas, and the way he created the first sort of integrated resort of conventions with hotel. At the time, that was risky, new, and frankly genius. And when we look at our business today, you see the importance of conventions and large events, and that model is frankly the model. And he was the pioneer of that and the one that brought that to Las Vegas, and is what it is today. Not to mention how good he was to his team in the last 12 months, I think, is something that is perhaps overlooked. But paying your team members during the entire pandemic, your entire team members, as if they had been working, is something I'm envious of. Something that the fact that he could do that and did do that is pretty amazing. He obviously, in his life, stood up to a lot of people, a lot of controversy with the unions, and was the one of, if not the only on the Strip, non-union hotel, which was something that he was proud of, and gave his people a reason to be comfortable enough with him that they never needed to have a union, which I think is a wonderful testament to him. And the thing that stood with me was the fact that he believed in himself so greatly. I know that sounds maybe like arrogance, but for me, I took it a different way. One day I was talking to him, and he was telling me, I can't remember exactly, I think it was in Spain, he was going to build a 4,000-room hotel. And I remember saying to him, well, why 4,000 rooms? Why so many? And he said, why so many? He said, why so few? Because he knew what he was doing was going to be successful, and he knew it was going to be a hit. And that's the same thing as building conventions here. I think in the 90s, people were like, this guy's crazy, what's he doing? But he knew it was going to work, and he believed in himself, and it was pretty amazing. I do, if we have time for a quick story, I do remember that on the opening night of Oscars, he never really cared for downtown. He never really came downtown. He never had an interest in downtown. Not like Steve Wynn, who was originally in downtown, who was one of the founding fathers of downtown, and also, even to his last few days in Vegas, took an active interest in what was happening down here in the business. Sheldon never really cared for what was happening down here, but he did come to the opening of Oscars in 2011, and it was probably one of the more stressful nights I've ever had in the business world. He and a bunch of other high-profile people were coming down here for the opening, and we were building the restaurant. It was not ready to open. The restaurant was absolutely not ready to open. It was still under construction 24 hours prior, and we came to realize, it was in December, so it was cold. The heating wasn't working in the dome.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. And we had all these guys coming down here, and he was one of them. And somehow we did a dinner for I think it was about 60 people, private dinner. The chef did a good job with the food. And we were all freaking out about the AC, the heat not working. And we sit down, and everyone's, you could see people weren't taking off their jackets so quickly. But anyway, he ordered a second steak. And when he did that, I knew he was having a good night. And that the food was good, and it went well in the end. But the opening of Oscars was a very memorable night for us here. And I think the other one that is a story that goes back to the old days, and one day I hope we have Larry Rubo on our podcast. But his mother owned a restaurant called The Venetian. And the story goes, and maybe Larry will be able to confirm this for us, but the story goes that Sheldon wanted to build The Venetian on the Strip. And he met with Larry and said, I want to buy the name The Venetian from you. And Larry said, well, for what you're doing for our town and our community and building this huge resort and taking this huge risk, don't worry about buying the name from me. I'll just give it to you, and you'll always support me in my liquor business, and which is Southern Wine, Southern Glazers now. And from what I gather, up until his passing, the Venetian always bought alcohol from Southern Wine, and he gave him the name for free, and the deal was done in a handshake, which is old Vegas and, frankly, the way it should be.